Some of the original parts of Woman in Love were written in the bathtub upstairs because my father was in the bathtub and he called up Barry afterwards and
For 13 long years after Robin Gibb's passing, fans around the world were left with a lingering feeling that his story was never fully told. The voice that once carried heartbreak, longing, and emotional truth seemed to fade too quietly, leaving behind unanswered questions. Robin Gibb wasn't just a member of one of the most successful musical groups in history. He was the emotional heartbeat many believed was hiding something deeper behind every lyric he sang. Throughout his life, Robin often appeared distant, introspective, and weighed down by emotions he rarely explained in public. Fans sensed it in his eyes, heard it in his trembling falsetto, and felt it in the melancholy woven through his songs. There was always a belief that behind the fame, the sold-out arenas, and the global success, Robin was fighting private battles no one truly understood. After his death, speculation only grew stronger. Why did he seem so isolated at times? Why did his music grow darker and more reflective in his later years? And why did those closest to him remain silent for so long? Now, 13 years later, Robin Gibb's children have finally chosen to speak. And what they are confirming doesn't come from gossip or scandal, but from truth. Their words reveal a man far more complex, sensitive, and emotionally burdened than the public ever realized. They confirm that the pain fans sensed was real, the distance was meaningful, and the silence was intentional. This isn't about exposing secrets. It's about understanding the man behind the voice, and why, all along, our suspicions were never wrong. Robin Gibb was often described as the quiet force within the Bee Gees, the member whose presence didn't demand attention, yet whose absence would have been impossible to ignore. From the earliest days of the group, it was clear that Robin carried a different emotional weight than those around him. While others thrived on performance and spotlight, Robin gravitated toward introspection. His children now confirm that this wasn't a pose or a personality crafted for the public. It was who he truly was. Growing up in a household surrounded by music, Robin learned early on that expression didn't always require words. He absorbed emotions deeply and released them slowly, often through melody rather than conversation. His children recall that he was always observing people, moods, changes in energy, quietly taking everything in. This sensitivity shaped not only his artistry, but also the way he navigated life. Fame amplified that sensitivity, making the public world overwhelming at times. As the Bee Gees' success grew, so did the pressure. Global recognition brought expectations that clashed with Robin's internal nature. His children explain that he often felt misunderstood, even while adored by millions. The applause was loud, but the connection felt distant. This emotional disconnect led Robin to retreat inward, seeking solitude as a form of balance rather than escape. To outsiders, it sometimes looked like detachment. In reality, it was self-preservation. Family life offered moments of grounding. But even there, Robin struggled with conflicting roles. He wanted to be present, reflective, and emotionally available, yet his career demanded constant movement and public visibility. His children say he was deeply aware of this tension and carried guilt over missed moments. Instead of justifying those absences, he internalized them, often expressing regret in private rather than explanation in public. One of the truths his children now confirm is that Robin experienced long periods of emotional heaviness. He didn't label it or dramatize it, but he acknowledged it internally. He believed emotions were meant to be understood, not hidden, yet he was selective about who earned access to that inner world. This is why his music felt so personal. It was the safest place for honesty. Within the Bee Gees, Robin's emotional depth played a crucial role. While the group functioned as a unit, Robin's individuality gave the music its reflective edge. His children reveal that he sometimes felt torn between collaboration and self-expression. He wanted harmony, both musically and personally, but struggled when his inner voice felt overshadowed. This internal conflict shaped many creative decisions, even when they weren't visible to fans. Despite these struggles, Robin never viewed himself as broken. He saw himself as sensitive in a world that rewarded toughness. He taught his children that emotional awareness was a strength, even when it made life harder. He encouraged them to sit with their feelings rather than suppress them, believing that discomfort was often a teacher. The public often interpreted Robin's silence as mystery. His children now clarify that it was intention. He chose reflection over reaction, depth over explanation. He believed some truths lost meaning when spoken too loudly. This philosophy guided how he lived and how he created. 13 years after his death, what his children are confirming isn't a revelation of darkness, but an affirmation of humanity. Robin Gibb lived exactly as he sang, openly, emotionally, and without pretense. The sadness fans sensed wasn't weakness. It was awareness. And understanding that truth brings his story into sharper focus, setting the stage for everything that follows. As Robin Gibb moved deeper into adulthood, the emotional patterns that defined his inner world became more pronounced. According to his children, this period marked a turning point, one where success no longer felt like validation but obligation. The demands of fame, schedules, and expectations slowly replaced the joy that music once brought him. While he remained committed to his craft, the emotional cost grew heavier with time. Robin struggled with the contradiction of being deeply known and deeply unknown at the same time. Millions recognized his voice, yet few understood the man behind it. His children explained that this disconnect created a sense of isolation that never fully lifted. Public appearances required performance, not honesty, and Robin often felt drained by the constant need to present a composed version of himself. When the spotlight dimmed, the silence felt both comforting and confronting. The pressure within the Bee Gees added another layer. While the group was inseparable in public, creative disagreements and unspoken tensions existed behind closed doors. Robin's children confirm that he often felt his emotional contributions were overlooked in favor of commercial momentum. This didn't lead to open conflict, but it did deepen his tendency to withdraw. He preferred reflection to confrontation, believing harmony was worth protecting, even if it came at a personal cost. During this time, Robin leaned heavily on routine and control to maintain balance. He found comfort in structure, history, and intellectual pursuits. Reading, writing, and quiet study became anchors that helped him manage emotional overload. His children recall that he was drawn to historical narratives and philosophical ideas, perhaps because they offered perspective beyond the immediacy of fame. These private interests were rarely shared publicly, yet they shaped how he interpreted his own life. Relationships were another area where Robin experienced complexity. He loved deeply but cautiously. His children say he feared emotional chaos more than loneliness, which sometimes led him to create distance even from those closest to him. This was not coldness but protection. He believed that strong emotions, if left unmanaged, could be destructive. As a result, he often chose restraint, a decision that sometimes created misunderstandings. Health challenges later in life forced Robin into deeper introspection. Facing physical vulnerability brought emotional clarity. His children confirmed that during this period he spoke more openly about fear, acceptance, and mortality. He wasn't afraid of endings, but he worried about unresolved meaning. He wanted his life to reflect sincerity rather than spectacle, and he became more selective about how he spent his remaining energy. Music during this stage became quieter but more intentional. Robin wasn't chasing trends or numbers. He focused on emotional accuracy. Each performance, each lyric carried deliberate weight. His children say he viewed music as conversation, not entertainment. He wanted listeners to feel understood, even if they couldn't explain why. One of the most significant confirmations from his children is that Robin never felt fulfilled by fame alone. He appreciated recognition, but it didn't define him. What mattered most was connection, genuine, unfiltered, and honest. When that connection was missing, success felt hollow. This truth explains why he often seemed restless, even at the height of acclaim. 13 years later, these insights finally complete the picture fans sensed but couldn't articulate. Robin Gibb wasn't conflicted because he lacked gratitude. He was conflicted because he cared deeply about meaning. His life wasn't divided between public success and private pain. It was a continuous search for balance between the two. By confirming this, his children aren't revealing secrets. They're honoring the emotional truth Robin lived with every day. And in doing so, they help us understand that the depth we heard in his voice was not an act. It was a reflection. As the years passed, Robin Gibb's role as a father became the most defining and emotionally significant part of his life. While the world continued to see him primarily as a legendary musician, his children experienced him as a thoughtful, reserved, and deeply introspective parent. According to them, Robin approached fatherhood with the same seriousness and emotional awareness that shaped his music. He believed that words carried weight, and he chose them carefully, especially with his family. Robin was not an overly expressive parent in a conventional say. His absences, touring, recording, and public commitments frequently pulled him away during formative years. He never dismissed that reality. Instead, he carried it with him as a private responsibility. Rather than defending his choices, he acknowledged them, teaching his children that accountability mattered more than explanation. As they matured, Robin shifted how he related to them. He became increasingly open about his own insecurities and regrets, not to burden them, but to model authenticity. He believed that pretending to have everything figured out created distance, while vulnerability created trust. These conversations strengthened their bond, especially in his later years, when time felt more fragile. Music became a shared language within the family. While Robin rarely spoke directly about how his songs connected to personal experiences, his children understood that many emotions he struggled to articulate lived inside his work. Certain melodies carried private meaning, serving as emotional bridges between him and those he loved. Through music, he expressed care, regret, hope, and reassurance without needing explanation. As his health declined, Robin became more intentional about emotional closure. He spoke to his children about forgiveness, urging them not to carry resentment toward others or themselves. He believed unresolved emotions could quietly shape a life, and he wanted his children free from that burden. These moments were not dramatic, but deeply meaningful. They were conversations rooted in care rather than fear. After his passing, his children faced the challenge of watching the public grieve a symbol while they mourned a person. The contrast was stark. Fans celebrated his voice and achievements, while his children missed the quiet moments, the thoughtful pauses, the soft humor, the reflective advice. This dual experience made them protective of his memory, especially when speculation and simplification threatened to replace truth. For many years they chose silence. Not because they had nothing to say, but because they believed some stories deserved time. They wanted grief to settle, perspective to mature, and emotion to stabilize. Speaking too soon felt like exposure rather than understanding. Now, with distance and clarity, they feel ready to confirm what many always sensed, that Robin Gibb was emotionally complex, deeply loving, and quietly burdened by responsibility. He wasn't distant because he lacked care. He was reserved because he felt deeply. To his children, his legacy is not defined by fame or influence, but by integrity. He taught them that sensitivity is a form of strength, that listening matters, and that emotional awareness is worth protecting. These lessons continue to shape their lives long after his voice fell silent. By sharing these truths now, they aren't rewriting history. They're completing it, ensuring that Robin Gibb is remembered not only as a legendary artist, but as a thoughtful father, whose greatest contribution may have been the emotional honesty he lived by 13 years after Robin Gibb's death. His legacy continues to resonate, not just through music, but through the truths his children are now sharing. While fans have long celebrated his unmistakable falsetto and the timeless catalog of the Bee Gees, these confirmations reveal a man whose life was far richer and more complex than any headline could capture. Robin was not simply a performer. He was a thinker, a father, and a man who carried the weight of both fame and private emotion with quiet dignity. One of the most important aspects of this legacy is the recognition of Robin's emotional authenticity. His children confirm that the sensitivity fans sensed was real. It was not an affectation for performance, nor a byproduct of fame. He lived with depth, experiencing joy, sorrow, and love fully, yet often privately. This ability to translate profound personal emotion into music is part of why his songs continue to resonate decades later. Every note, every tremor in his voice carries the sincerity that made listeners feel they were being understood. Robin's life also serves as a reflection on the human cost of fame. Behind the glamour, he managed insecurities, personal regrets, and periods of intense introspection. The world saw him as a star, but his children saw the man who carefully balanced the public persona with his private self. The man who wanted to be present for his children, yet had commitments that often pulled him away. Their reflections remind us that public success can mask private struggle, and that understanding a person fully often requires looking beyond appearances. In addition to his emotional depth, Robin's contributions to the Bee Gees' music are being reassessed with a new perspective. While Barry and Morris were often celebrated for their roles, Robin's distinct tone and sensitivity gave the group its unique emotional resonance. His ability to convey vulnerability through harmony and solo performance added layers that enriched the band's legacy. His children emphasized that this artistry was inseparable from his inner life. His emotional experiences fueled the music, lending it authenticity that could never be faked. For his family, sharing these truths now is both cathartic and important. They hope that by confirming what fans long suspected, they provide a fuller picture of who Robin Gibb truly was. He was not a distant icon or an untouchable star. He was a father, a brother, and a man who navigated extraordinary pressures while remaining true to himself. Understanding this side of Robin deepens admiration for his accomplishments, offering insight into the courage it took to live openly and sensitively in the public eye. His children also stress that Robin's story is a reminder of the power of empathy. Fame magnifies every action, every silence, and every choice. Yet Robin's life shows the importance of compassion and understanding. Fans may never experience the pressures he faced, but through his music and the reflections now shared by his children, they can appreciate the humanity behind the legend. The voice that once seemed distant now carries meaning far beyond melody. Ultimately, Robin Gibb's legacy is not only in his songs but in the lessons he imparted to those closest to him. That sensitivity is strength. That emotional honesty matters, and that true connection is more valuable than applause. 13 years later, these truths bring his story full circle. What fans always suspected about his depth and emotional complexity is now confirmed, allowing the world to honor him not just as a singer, but as a fully realized human being. And perhaps that is the most lasting tribute of all, that Robin Gibb continues to teach. Inspire and touch hearts, not only through music, but through the honesty and humanity he lived every day. The confirmation from his children ensures that his life, his struggles, and his triumphs are remembered in the way they were always meant to be: complete, authentic, and profoundly human.